Welcome to our deep dive into the fascinating world of criminal profiling methods. In this video, we'll explore how experts use psychology, behavioral science, and investigative techniques to build profiles of unknown offenders. Whether it's a high-profile case or a local investigation, profiling plays a crucial role in narrowing down suspects and understanding criminal motives. We'll break down the main approaches, discuss their strengths and weaknesses, and look at real-world examples. By the end, you'll have a clear understanding of how profiling helps law enforcement solve complex crimes. Let's begin our journey into the science and art of criminal profiling. Criminal profiling, sometimes called offender profiling, is a technique used to identify likely suspects and analyze patterns that may predict future offenses or victims. Profilers look at the evidence from a crime scene, victimology, and other behavioral clues to create a psychological and demographic sketch of the perpetrator. This method combines elements of psychology, criminology, and investigative experience. Profiling is not about naming a specific person but about narrowing the field and guiding investigations. It's a blend of science and intuition, helping law enforcement focus their resources more effectively. Roots of criminal profiling can be traced back to the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Early cases, such as the hunt for Jack the Ripper, saw investigators using behavioral clues to narrow down suspects. Over time, profiling evolved, especially with the development of forensic psychology and the FBI's behavioral science unit in the 1970s. These pioneers formalized profiling methods, combining case studies, interviews with offenders, and psychological theory. Today, profiling is a recognized investigative tool used worldwide to tackle everything from serial crimes to terrorism. FBI's behavioral science unit, established in the 1970s, revolutionized criminal profiling. Agents began systematically interviewing serial offenders to understand their motives and methods. This led to the creation of the Criminal Profiling Program, which formalized the process and provided training for law enforcement nationwide. The FBI's approach emphasizes both behavioral analysis and statistical data, making profiling more scientific and reliable. Their work has influenced police forces around the world, setting standards for how profiles are developed and used in investigations. Main goals of criminal profiling are to identify the type of person likely to have committed a crime, predict future actions, and help prioritize suspects. Profilers aim to understand the offender's behavior, motivations, and possible background. This information helps investigators focus their efforts, allocate resources, and sometimes even anticipate the criminal's next move. Profiling is especially useful in cases involving serial crimes, where patterns and behaviors can reveal important clues about the perpetrator. There are several main types of criminal profiling methods, each with its own approach and focus. The most common include deductive profiling, inductive profiling, geographic profiling, and investigative psychology. Each method uses different sources of information and analytical techniques. Some rely more on statistical data, while others focus on behavioral patterns or crime scene analysis. Understanding these methods helps us appreciate the complexity and nuance involved in building a criminal profile. Deductive profiling is based on the direct analysis of evidence from the crime scene. Profilers look at the specific details of the crime, such as how it was committed, the victim's characteristics, and any unique behaviors displayed by the offender. By piecing together these clues, they form a profile tailored to the individual case. This method is highly case-specific and relies on the profiler's expertise in interpreting physical and behavioral evidence. It's a logical, step-by-step approach that avoids generalizations. Inductive profiling takes a broader approach, using statistical data and patterns from previous crimes to build a profile. Instead of focusing solely on the current case, profilers look at similar cases and offenders to identify common traits. This method relies on the assumption that criminals with similar backgrounds or motives will behave in similar ways. Inductive profiling is useful for identifying general characteristics, but it can sometimes lead to errors if the current case is unique. Geographic profiling focuses on the locations of crimes to predict where an offender might live or strike next. By analyzing the spatial patterns of criminal activity, profilers can narrow down search areas and identify likely home bases. This method uses mathematical models and mapping software to find patterns that might not be obvious at first glance. Geographic profiling is especially useful in serial crime investigations, where location data can reveal important clues about the offender's habits and movements. Investigative psychology is a scientific approach to profiling that applies psychological theories and research to criminal investigations. It involves analyzing behavior patterns, decision-making processes, and interpersonal dynamics. This method uses statistical analysis and psychological principles to draw conclusions about the offender's likely characteristics. Investigative psychology is often used alongside other profiling methods to provide a more comprehensive understanding of the case. Behavioral evidence is a key component of criminal profiling. This includes the actions of the offender during the crime, their interactions with the victim, and any post-crime behavior. Profilers look for patterns such as rituals or signatures that can reveal the offender's psychological state and motivations. Behavioral evidence helps distinguish between organized and disorganized offenders, providing important clues for investigators. One of the classic distinctions in profiling is between organized and disorganized offenders. Organized offenders plan their crimes carefully, often leaving little evidence behind. They may have above-average intelligence and social skills. Disorganized offenders, on the other hand, act impulsively and leave chaotic crime scenes. Understanding this distinction helps profilers predict future behavior and narrow down suspect lists. Victimology is the study of victims and their relationship to the crime. Profilers examine the victim's lifestyle, habits, and connections to understand why they were targeted. This information can reveal patterns and help identify the type of person the offender is likely to target in the future. Victimology is an essential part of building a comprehensive criminal profile. Analyzing the crime scene is a fundamental step in profiling. Every detail from the location and time to the way the crime was committed provides valuable clues. Profilers look for evidence of planning, control, and emotional state. The crime scene can indicate whether the offender was familiar with the area, acted alone, or had specific motives. This analysis forms the foundation of the criminal profile. Profiling, it's important to distinguish between an offender's modus operandi (MO) and their signature. The MO refers to the methods used to commit the crime, which can change over time as the offender adapts. The signature, however, is a unique personal element that fulfills the offender's psychological needs and rarely changes. Understanding both helps profilers link crimes and understand the offender's motivation. Linkage analysis is the process of connecting different crimes based on similarities in behavior, victimology, and crime scene evidence. Profilers use this method to determine if multiple crimes were committed by the same offender. By identifying patterns and unique characteristics, investigators can build stronger cases and prevent future offenses. Linkage analysis is especially valuable in serial crime investigation. Forensic evidence, such as DNA, fingerprints, and trace materials, plays a crucial role in profiling. While profiling focuses on behavioral and psychological clues, forensic evidence provides concrete links to suspects. Combining both approaches gives investigators a more complete picture of the crime and increases the chances of solving the case. Forensic science and profiling often work hand in hand. Psychological autopsy is a method used to understand the mental state of a deceased person, often in cases of suicide or unexplained death. Profilers gather information from interviews, medical records, and personal writings to reconstruct the individual's psychological profile. This helps determine whether a death was accidental, suicidal, or the result of foul play. Psychological autopsies are valuable tools in complex investigation. Profiling is especially important in serial crime cases, where offenders commit multiple crimes over time. By analyzing patterns in behavior, victim selection, and crime scenes, profilers can link cases and predict future actions. This helps law enforcement allocate resources, warn potential victims, and develop strategies for apprehending the offender. Serial cases often require the combined use of several profiling methods. One of the most famous uses of criminal profiling was in the hunt for the Unabomber, Ted Kaczynski. Profilers analyzed his writings, choice of targets, and bomb-making techniques to build a psychological profile. This profile helped narrow down the suspect list and ultimately led to his capture. The Unabomber case highlights the power of profiling in solving complex and high-profile crimes. BTK killer case is another example where profiling played a key role. Investigators used behavioral analysis to understand the killer's need for attention and control. By studying his letters and crime scenes, profilers identified patterns that matched Dennis Rader's personality. This information helped law enforcement focus their investigation and eventually led to his arrest. Jack the Ripper is one of the earliest cases where profiling was used, even before the term existed. Investigators analyzed the killer's methods, choice of victims, and crime scenes to develop theories about his identity. While the case remains unsolved, the techniques used laid the groundwork for modern profiling methods. It's a classic example of how behavioral analysis can guide investigations. While profiling is a valuable tool, it has its limitations. Profiles are based on probabilities, not certainties, and can sometimes lead investigators in the wrong direction. Over-reliance on profiling can cause tunnel vision where other leads are ignored. It's important to use profiling as one part of a broader investigative strategy, combining it with forensic evidence and traditional police work. Ethical issues are an important part of criminal profiling. Profilers must avoid biases and stereotypes that can lead to wrongful accusations. It's crucial to respect the rights of suspects and victims throughout the process. Ethical profiling relies on evidence, transparency, and accountability. Law enforcement agencies have guidelines to ensure profiling is used responsibly and fairly. Cultural factors can influence both criminal behavior and profiling methods. Profilers must be aware of cultural differences in behavior, communication, and social norms. Ignoring these factors can lead to misunderstandings and inaccurate profiles. Modern profiling emphasizes cultural competence and sensitivity, ensuring that investigations are fair and effective across diverse communities. Advances in technology have transformed criminal profiling. Computer software, databases, and geographic information systems allow profilers to analyze large amounts of data quickly and accurately. Technology helps identify patterns, connect cases, and visualize crime trends. As technology evolves, profiling methods become more precise and effective, supporting law enforcement in solving complex cases. Cybercrime presents new challenges for profilers. Offenders can hide their identities and operate across borders. Profilers analyze online behavior, communication patterns, and digital footprints to build profiles of cybercriminals. This requires specialized knowledge of technology and internet culture. Profiling in cybercrime is an evolving field, adapting to the changing landscape of digital offenses. Profiling is also used in counterterrorism efforts. Experts analyze the motivations, backgrounds, and behaviors of individuals involved in terrorist activities. This helps identify potential threats and prevent attacks. Terrorism profiling requires an understanding of political, religious, and social factors, as well as collaboration between agencies. It's a complex and sensitive area of profiling. Profiling can assist in missing persons investigations by analyzing the individual's behavior, relationships, and circumstances. Profilers look for patterns that might indicate foul play, voluntary disappearance, or risk factors. This information helps guide search efforts and prioritize leads. Profiling is a valuable tool in finding missing persons and resolving complex cases. Child abduction cases often rely on profiling to identify likely suspects and predict offender behavior. Profilers analyze the circumstances of the abduction, the victim's background, and any previous similar cases. This helps law enforcement respond quickly and effectively, increasing the chances of a safe recovery. Profiling is a critical tool in these urgent and sensitive investigations. White-collar crimes, such as fraud and embezzlement, require a different approach to profiling. Profilers focus on financial patterns, organizational behavior, and psychological traits common among offenders. Understanding the motivations and methods behind these crimes helps investigators identify suspects and prevent future offenses. Profiling in white-collar crime combines behavioral analysis with financial expertise. Organized crime groups operate differently from individual offenders. Profilers analyze group dynamics, leadership structures, and patterns of criminal activity. This helps law enforcement understand how these groups function and identify key members. Profiling in organized crime requires collaboration between agencies and a deep understanding of criminal networks. Domestic violence cases benefit from profiling by analyzing patterns of abuse, escalation, and risk factors. Profilers work with social services and law enforcement to assess the danger to victims and predict future behavior. This information helps develop intervention strategies and protect vulnerable individuals. Profiling is an important tool in preventing and responding to domestic violence. Sexual offense cases often involve detailed profiling to understand the offender's motivations, methods, and victim selection. Profilers analyze crime scene evidence, behavioral patterns, and psychological factors. This helps law enforcement identify suspects, link cases, and develop prevention strategies. Profiling is a key component in addressing and solving sexual offense cases. Arson investigations use profiling to determine the offender's motives, methods, and risk of escalation. Profilers look at the type of fire, target selection, and any patterns in previous incidents. This information helps investigators identify suspects and prevent future arson attacks. Profiling in arson cases combines behavioral analysis with forensic fire investigation. Homicide cases are among the most common uses for criminal profiling. Profilers analyze the relationship between the victim and offender, the nature of the attack, and any behavioral evidence left at the scene. This helps investigators understand the motive, identify suspects, and anticipate future actions. Profiling is a critical tool in solving homicide cases and bringing offenders to justice. Cold cases or unsolved crimes often benefit from fresh profiling. New techniques and perspectives can reveal overlooked patterns or connections. Profilers re-examine evidence, interview witnesses, and apply updated methods to generate new leads. Profiling can breathe new life into old cases, offering hope for resolution and closure for victims' families. International crimes present unique challenges for profilers. Differences in laws, cultures, and investigative resources require adaptability and collaboration. Profilers work with international agencies to share information, analyze cross-border patterns, and coordinate efforts. Profiling in international cases is essential for tackling global crime and terrorism. Becoming a criminal profiler requires specialized training in psychology, criminology, and investigative techniques. Many profilers have backgrounds in law enforcement or forensic psychology. Training programs cover behavioral analysis, interviewing skills, and case studies. Ongoing education is important to keep up with new methods and technologies. Profilers must combine scientific knowledge with practical experience. Effective profiling relies on collaboration between different agencies and experts. Law enforcement, psychologists, forensic scientists, and analysts work together to build comprehensive profiles. Sharing information and perspectives leads to better outcomes and more accurate profiles. Collaboration is especially important in complex or high-profile cases. The field of criminal profiling continues to evolve with advances in science and technology. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, and big data are opening new possibilities for analyzing behavior and predicting crime. As profiling methods become more sophisticated, they will play an even greater role in solving crimes and keeping communities safe. The future of profiling is both exciting and challenging. Criminal profiling has captured the public's imagination, thanks to movies, TV shows, and books. While media portrayals can be dramatic and entertaining, they often oversimplify the process. Real-life profiling is more complex and requires careful analysis and collaboration. It's important to separate fact from fiction when learning about profiling methods. Public perception of criminal profiling is shaped by both real cases and media representation. Many people see profiling as a powerful tool, but there are also concerns about accuracy and fairness. Education and transparency are key to building trust in profiling methods. Law enforcement agencies work to inform the public about how profiling is used and its limitations. There are many success stories where profiling has helped solve difficult cases. From serial killers to missing persons, profiling has provided crucial insights that led to arrests and convictions. These stories highlight the value of combining behavioral analysis with traditional investigative work. Profiling continues to be a vital tool in modern law enforcement. Criminal profiling is a powerful investigative tool that combines science, psychology, and experience. While it has its limitations, profiling has helped solve countless cases and prevent future crimes. As methods continue to evolve, profiling will remain an essential part of law enforcement. By understanding its strengths and challenges, we can appreciate the important role profiling plays in keeping our communities safe. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of criminal profiling methods.